Hello and welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I'm of course your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 181st episode, our returning guest is Jonathan Fowler. This is Jonathan's 54th appearance on the podcast. For a list of the rest of his episodes, check the show notes. Jonathan graduated with a BA in History from Indiana University in 2006. He's an unabashed left-wing political junkie. He has lived and worked in South Korea for over 10 years, trying to help the citizens of that great nation hopefully talk pretty one day. Quick programming note. This episode covers the final 2020 presidential debate. In the interest of publishing this episode before the polls close today, I haven't added the clips from the debate as I usually would have. If you have voted, thank you. If you haven't, please do so. And now on to the show.
What happened to Thanksgiving?
It's been consumed by the Christmas season. You know what? Okay. If Thanksgiving wants more respect, it needs to come up with some more Thanksgiving carols. Needs more special marketing. I love Thanksgiving, but it's really kind of one day, you know?
Yeah. I guess so, yeah. I don't know. I'm still reeling from Halloween here, so.
Well, we've still got some pumpkins up on the counter here, but I think we're trying to transition away from that part of the year. So I feel like this year's been spooky enough.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, you know, Halloween's a holiday about subverting fear through, I don't know, manifesting it in other ways, perhaps. Yeah. Well, speaking of fear, we're dealing today with the final debate, and I know we're kind of getting to it kind of late, and we want to keep our streak going here of dealing with all of the debates and so forth. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm actually perfectly fine experimenting in this way because I feel like at this point I'm not really out to like convince anybody of anything one way or another. I feel like anyone listening to this already knows how they feel about everything. It's really just for posterity, and also I feel like this debate was very different from the other one in tone, but I feel like the lies still spewed forth in a torrent. So I definitely don't know that, you know, people are, I heard the post-debate coverage in the mainstream media about how this was like a new tone and stuff. It's like, we're still falling for this 4 years later every time he modulates his tone for like 90 minutes and you think he's a new person.
He had to change his tone because they weren't going to let him talk over the moderator and, you know, they're going to cut his mic.
Did they ever cut his mic? I didn't get that. I know you're not done yet, but I haven't gotten to a point where they actually cut his mic.
Well, maybe I understand the way the way it works, I guess, is supposedly they're just going to keep your mic off for the first 2 minutes. Like they have 6 sections like they have done before. And for the first 2 minutes, each person gets 2 uninterrupted minutes to talk. And the other person's mic is totally cut off during that period of time. And then after that, when there's debates and responses, then they don't have anybody's mics muted. Although I guess there's the idea is that they could always do that theoretically, but I haven't seen it necessarily either. But it seems to be going better as far as like not as many interruptions and stuff. But he's still full of shit. So it's the lies will continue. So
absolutely.
All right. So, should we introduce the change? Because you mentioned the change, but our audience may not know. Well, the deal is, frankly, I've had a heck of a week, and this weekend with the Halloween and stuff going on, I had a celebration with some of my students and stuff, and I just didn't have necessarily the time to sit down and take notes on every single thing that was said in the debate. So while I have watched almost the entire first half of the debate, I think we haven't gotten through it. So we're going to go through part of it live. Part of it's going to be based on notes like we've always done. And then part of it, we're just going to do it live. We're just going to watch it and respond to it in the moment. And Bob's going to have a heck of a time editing this later, I guess. But, I think like if we'll both watch it at the same time is what I was thinking. And then if we both want to comment, we can just say, hey, pause. We're going to pause at the same time. And then we're going to, have that part where we can both comment on it.
Yeah, we can do it that way. That works for me.
Yeah, did you have a different idea, or what were you thinking?
No, I can do it that way. I just want to make sure that I can't hear, like, in the past when I have tried to play things on my computer while this is going, the person on the other end can't hear it, so I just want to make sure that's still true because I don't know that we're going to be synced up exactly. And plus, it'll be better if I can just insert the audio later anyway. So if there's a way that we can, I don't know how are you just going to listen to it on the computer or something?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have
I've
like
got it on my computer.
do you have like headphones that you can plug into your computer that you can
Yes,
listen to it
I do.
with?
That's a good
Okay.
idea, actually. I hadn't even thought of that. That's a good one.
Yeah, go ahead and plug those in. Just 'cause I want to not be now. I don't want any of the sound from that to go into the recording of this. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna put I'll put one over my ear and I'll try to keep the other one free, and that will look like DJ Big Daddy Cha Cha. So okay,
Yeah.
hold on 1 second. Okay. Yeah. All right, I've got the headset here. Now, I don't need this right now necessarily because it's going to be a little while, I think, before we even get to the part where we have to listen. But yeah. All right, so the Rob Burgess Show audience, you're here with us for this first experience of this new method of potentially recording. I don't know, it could revolutionize things 3 years down the road when the next primaries start off.
Yeah, I feel like this is
works.
going to be harder to edit, but if it works, it'll maybe be a little more, how can we say, a little more in the moment, because I know you said that you felt like you were just reciting a list when you were doing it with the notes. I thought it worked okay for me, and I feel like our listeners I've gotten good feedback on it too. But I mean, I understand the impulse here, so.
Yeah, I just feel like, you just deal with so much information when you go through one of these debates, and by the time, even if you did nothing else but just watch the debate and immediately respond, by the time you get to the end of the debate, you're going to be, you're going to really have some trouble finding your footing on exactly what the context was of the debate at the very beginning and stuff. So I think being able to respond at the moment that they say something, or, and again, I don't want to stop every 30 seconds, but, like every, 3 to 5 minutes or something, if we want to jump in and go back through a few things that were said, or, call something out, I think that might be, it may be great. I don't know. It might be great.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So we have the second presidential debate. I think this took place on October 23rd, 2020.
Yep.
In Nashville, Tennessee, held by the Commission on Presidential Debates at Belmont University between Donald J. Trump and Joseph, is it R. Biden? I want to say it's his middle initial is R. Is that correct?
Huh?
I don't know. I think that's right.
You're asking what his middle name is?
Yeah.
I've just always seen the P. Is it Philip or something? I'm just guessing now.
Okay,
I don't even know.
Biden.
Joseph R. Biden. Is it Robert, maybe?
Okay. And this is moderated by Kristen Welker of NBC News. All right. Well, I guess our first subject was coronavirus, which is a topic that Donald Trump doesn't seem to like to talk about, although he did kind of try to drag out the conversation and keep bringing things up towards the end of it, which I was surprised about. And the first question was, how would you lead the country in this next stage of the coronavirus? And Trump said, so as you know, 2.2 million people were modeled out, were expected to die. You could call it and then he talked about, well, obviously that's ridiculous. Like, yes, 2.2 million people were expected to die if nobody did anything. Like if people just everybody went about daily life as if nothing was different, which was never going to happen. There's no universe where that happens. Like, people take precautions. But, he's like, you hear the expression, the good is the enemy of the great, or the great is the enemy of the good. He's kind of making the terrible the enemy of the absolute worst imaginable. Right? That's basically what he's doing here. He's saying, like, yeah, my response has been shit, but like, imagine how shit it would be if I hadn't done anything. Shouldn't you be thankful that I did something, even if it was like stupid and ineffective? And it's, that's not what he's saying, but that's essentially what I read from this. It's like, yeah, if you compare doing something, what you did, to doing nothing, then, but that's not how the world works. We compare what you did to what every other global leader did, and we judge the results, and your results are found wanting. So, he said, they talked about him having it. He said, you could call it a therapeutic. Some people call it a cure. I'm now immune, whether that's for 4 months or a lifetime. And they're apparently talking about some drug called Regeneron. Let's see. Joe Biden responded, 2.2 million Americans dead. Anybody who is responsible for that many deaths should not remain in power. Let's see. He talks about everyone should be encouraged to wear a mask at all times, which is probably a nice start to a Biden presidency, how to begin to get to this thing under control. But encourage may not be strong enough. It may need to be mandated. And he talked about rapid testing as well. Kristen Welker said, Trump, you took a therapeutic, Regeneron. You've said a cure will be available within a couple weeks. Is that a guarantee? Trump said, no, that's not a guarantee. I think there is a good chance. There are 2 companies, and then he talks about, I don't know, Johnson & Johnson, and I don't know who else he mentions, but he mentions more than 2 companies anyways.
Also, I'd like to point out that Regeneron is made from fetus
stem cells.
Yeah, exactly. Like something that Amy Coney Barrett would probably
Amy
not
Coney
be
Barrett's
happy
probably,
with.
Yeah, I'm sure she's furious that her dear leader has been saved by something that she would like to outlaw, no doubt. Yeah. Joe Biden talked about if he's president, having total transparency regarding the vaccine to prevent people from refusing the vaccine.
I'm starting with this one.
Yeah, total transparency in any aspect of government sounds pretty good at this point.
Copy that one. What do you think?
Let's see. He or Kristen Welker mentioned that we're going into a dark winter right now with the disease. And Trump said, I don't think we're going to have a dark winter at all. We're opening up our country. We're learning to live with it. And this was a big moment because then Joe Biden said, he said we're learning to live with it. No, we're learning to die with it. And he says he takes no responsibility, so on. I thought that was a pretty good response.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, what were the numbers yesterday? I mean, what were the numbers today? It was like, I mean, I know going into Friday and Saturday, it was like 99,000 deaths or 99,000 new infections. I imagine it slowed down during the weekend. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. Oh, by the way, Joe Biden's middle name is Robinette.
Oh, I was right. It was R. Yeah.
Yeah, it was R, but Robinette, I did not ever wouldn't have picked that out of a hat for sure. There's also been 231,000 deaths so far in the U.S. total, right, as of right now. So
231,000, right?
Yep, as of today.
Yeah. And they're saying, I mean, some people are saying we may hit, 300,000 before the inauguration, which is, I don't know, it's hard to imagine now, but at the same time, if you just extrapolate the math out, 1,000 deaths a day, I mean, I guess it would add up. I mean, and I'm not so sure we're not going to see a huge spike in deaths because we're hitting these big numbers, 80,000, 90,000, 100,000 infections. Mm-hmm. The deaths are going to trail by 2 to 3 weeks, and then we're going to see where we're at then. But it's going to be terrible, I imagine.
Well, we're just hitting the upswing here in Indiana too, so it's all over the place. And then I saw a study that said that his rallies he's been doing have contributed to several 100,000 infections, like they can be traced to them, like just from all his rallies that he's been doing. Like they went and tracked afterwards all the spike in cases everywhere after his rallies, and it's basically super spreader event multi times a day, and just like Johnny Appleseed with this.
Yeah, entirely predictable, but some people got to touch the stove, I guess.
Yeah, and he's touched the stove and apparently didn't even change his mind. So
yeah, well,
of course he got the best free government care.
I'm pretty sure either on the podcast or somewhere on Twitter I predicted, like, he has survived COVID. This is not going to make him smarter. This is not going to make him take it more seriously. This is going to tell this maniac, I'm invincible now. It doesn't matter what happens to anybody else. I'm good. I can't get it again. So And I think that that's pretty much how he's going about it. So Joe Biden said, he says he takes no responsibility. And Trump responds, he says, excuse me, take full responsibility. It's not my fault. It's China's fault. It came here. So immediately I take full responsibility, and then it's not my fault. Like that's, the two things, one after another, coming right out of his mouth. It's just like, the cognitive dissonance is strong with this one. It's China's fault. It's come here. It's not Joe's fault that it came here either. It's China's fault. Okay, well, I mean, credit to Trump. At least he's, he always says the worst possible thing about his enemies he could. But in this case, he's not even going to ascribe to Joe Biden responsibility for COVID-19. Pretty big of him, I guess. And he says, let's see, look, perhaps just to finish this again, because Donald Trump wants to move on from COVID. This is not a topic that he enjoys talking about at these debates. He says, look, perhaps just to finish this, I was kidding on that. I think he's talking about injecting bleach here. But just to finish this, Nancy Pelosi was dancing on the streets in Chinatown. Joe Biden said this is a terrible thing. You're a xenophobe. I think he called me a racist even. And Kristen Welker says, all right, I want to talk about both of your different strategies too. And Trump interrupts her. He thought I shouldn't have closed the border. That's obvious. And Welker says, well, do you want to respond to that quickly, Vice President Biden? And Joe Biden just says, no. She said, okay. So I'm very happy to see that Joe Biden has taken our advice from the last podcast where we said, you don't actually have to take every single speaking opportunity we give you, and you don't have to use up every second of your time and run over the time. Sometimes a one-word answer is all you have to say. That's it. Joe Biden, Donald Trump, even though it would be bad for Donald Trump to keep talking about coronavirus right now, Joe Biden is mature enough and focused enough to say, no, let's just move on. I'm not even going to bother. His last response is not even worthy of a response. So
which I'm sure is hard for him because he I think rightly so. I mean, his instinct is to counter that, but it's not worth it because all people are going to remember is two people arguing, and it's well, I don't know, both look same to me. Politics, right? And then it's just let that one go.
Yeah. So I give massive credit there because it tells me that Joe Biden has learned something from previous debate performances here about this. So I'm very happy to see that. Let's see. The question to Biden then was, you haven't ruled out more shutdowns? And Joe Biden said, no, he hasn't. And then Trump goes into this massive thing. He says, look, all he does is talk about shutdowns, but forget about him. His Democrat governors, Cuomo in New York, you look at what's going on in California, you look at Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Democrats all, they're shut down so tight and they're dying. And he supports all these people. All he talks about is shutdowns. We're not going to shut down, and we have to open our schools. And I have an example, and he just keeps going and stuff. So and I think at a certain point after that, Joe Biden pointed out that, look, I don't look at this in terms of Democratic and Republican states. I look at it as we're all Americans and stuff and so forth. And there's some stuff about that. So that's kind of where I got to on my notes.
Okay.
So that's 2 pages.
Okay.
They're talking about the taxes, and Donald Trump has just run through a series of scandals. He says that Joe Biden has gotten money from Russia, he's gotten money from China, it's terrible and all this stuff. And he said something about somebody who used to work for Joe Biden was just deposed or something, and he said all this stuff or something. There's no details or facts to back any of this up. It's just, as far as I can tell, it's Fox News conspiracy stuff. And I mean, Joe Biden is kind of smirking through all this stuff, and he says at several points, I haven't made a single cent from another country. You had the secret Chinese bank account. You withdrew all your money when you were president and stuff. So there's a lot of back and forth there. Not to say back and forth to be reductive, as that it's all equal, but Donald Trump is throwing out all the shit to see what sticks, and Joe Biden is kind of staying on message that, look, you're the one with the secret Chinese bank account that we just found out. You're the one who won't release your taxes. It's been 4 years. You say you're waiting for, you're waiting for something to end there.
All right, so you said you're at.
I'm at 47 right now. For some reason with the way YouTube is now, it's not precise enough that I can actually, pinpoint us. In a 2-hour video, I can't pinpoint the exact starting moment.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I've gone full screen here.
Okay. Well, tell me when you're hitting play. So this is like this is like when people played Pink Floyd over Dorothy or Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I mean, this is like like one of those missions in Call of Duty where you've got to do like coordinated sniper. We got to count down 3, 2, 1. Pew, pew. Like at the same, you see 2 bodies drop at the same moment or something. All right, Bob, are you ready? Let's count down 3, 2, 1, play.
All right, play.
So he said, no president should ever, they spied on my campaign. No president should ever have to go through what I went through. Robert Mueller and 18 angry Democrats just spent $48 million trying to find something on me, and they didn't find anything. He said, if I spent $1 million on you, Joe, I imagine what I could find with how you are, or something like that. Yeah. Donald Trump could spend $0 on an investigation into Joe Biden, and he would find something because he just makes shit up, Yeah. They say your brother made $3 million in Iraq or something, and they all make it through you. And they say you live very well. You own multiple houses all over the place or something. In the meantime, it's widely known that Joe Biden was for the longest time, he was the poorest senator, as far as I know, in the Senate. And so I don't know that this. Yeah, he's like poor. He's richer than us, but yeah, relatively for this kind of Washington. Doesn't seem to be the case.
Nope. So I did notice something I wanted to comment on in that section. Now, he made some insinuation about his son and his military service. What was he saying there? Because I didn't really understand the accusation. He said he wasn't in the military anymore. Okay. I don't get it. What does that mean?
I think the implication is that he was honorably discharged for using cocaine in the military. I think that's the implication. I honestly, I don't know what the implication is, but they've said variably that Hunter Biden was kicked out of the military, and Joe Biden has pointed out that it was honorably discharged, not dishonorably. And then they've also made implications about cocaine. And I don't know if that's contemporaneous. I don't know if those things were supposed to be contemporaneous. But again, it's this, it's this innuendo, this kind of politics that he's playing. So yeah.
No, I know he was trying to make some snide insinuation, but okay, here we go. I'm looking on Wikipedia, the beacon of truth for the world. Biden test positive for cocaine during urinalysis test and subsequently discharged administratively. So I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
attributed the result to smoking cigarettes he had accepted from smokers, claiming the cigarettes were laced with cocaine.
Wow, that's definitely a thing that happens.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah. So I think maybe Trump was modulating his attack here on Hunter Biden because he got a lot of shit last time for insulting Hunter Biden, who served in the military and had a drug problem, and totally ignoring the son who died of brain cancer.
I don't know him, as he said in the last debate.
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. And he also, I think Joe Biden answered pretty strongly on the Burisma, which was what Kristen Welker's question was about, Biden's alleged corruption in Ukraine. Biden said the person who got in trouble with regards to Ukraine was this guy. And because he tried to get Ukraine to fabricate some information about me, but nobody ever said that. They said I never did anything wrong there, basically. He also said, I never made any money from China. This guy made money from China. So, again, yeah, all this conservative projection, I think, about
Mm-hmm.
well, I mean, there's a question about whether Biden's family may have benefited in some ways internationally from association with him, and I just don't see anywhere where it's ever said that a crime was committed. Like, I mean, that's the ambient level of corruption we have in Washington or any country, maybe that. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, so Kristen Welker says, Mr. Trump, you never divested from your businesses and so forth. And there's something about the Chinese bank account. Trump starts, I have many bank accounts. This bank account, everybody knows about it. It's listed. It was opened in 2013, which is absolute bullshit. Nobody knew about this bank account until it was reported because it's not under Donald Trump's name. It was like a shell company name or something, but it was a Trump bank account, but it was not listed under his name. So that's like obviously patently false. Nobody knew about this until it was reported. And then he goes back on the attack against Biden. Him, his son, his brother, his other brother, they're all getting rich. They're like a vacuum cleaner. So, yeah. Again, the projection is real.
Right. It's more projection than a drive-in movie theater.
Wow. Zing. Yeah, for sure. All right.
Every accusation is a crime, as I heard it, or as a confession, rather. Every accusation is a confession.
Yeah, that's what I told my ex-girlfriend.
Zing.
All right. I'm sorry, I had to get that in there. When he said they're like a vacuum cleaner, I was like, stop. We got to capture this.
Yeah, that was brilliant. from the comedic stylings of Donald Trump.
Yeah. He is funny in a way. I don't know.
I don't know. It's always a troubling thing when he claims he was joking about something, because I feel like that's his response to things, and I don't think he's joking. I think he never laughs is the thing that throws me off. You know what I mean? Like, people that make jokes generally laugh at something, but I've never seen him genuinely laugh at anything. So it's kind of hard to tell that what he considers humor and what he doesn't. So I just have to assume when he's like telling people to drink bleach or whatever that he's serious, because it's like, well, how would I know that you're joking?
Well, I mean, the drinking bleach stuff, I mean, that was all. He was speculating very clearly. He was, pontificating and just kind of speculating openly and just like, maybe we do this, maybe we do that. It was not joking. I do think he jokes. People say he doesn't joke. I think he jokes. I think he's got a very, very, very snarky sense of humor. It's kind of like a, very sarcastic, very caustic kind of thing. And yeah, it's true. We never really see him laugh that much. I mean, we see him kind of chortle at times, perhaps, kind of, he'll rock his head up and down or something, and with a smile or something is kind of a laughing gesture. But yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think he does have a type of humor, but it's usually inappropriate at an inappropriate time, which, we all, whatever, we all have our own sense of humor and stuff. So, but yeah. I think we can all say he doesn't experience joy the way normal people do.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. All right. Well, they talked to Biden about how he's going to, control China or enforce things on China. And he talked about making China play by international rules. He said, there's a situation where whenever an American company wants to do business in China with intellectual property, they have to have a Chinese partner company that takes 51% of the property, has 51% of the control of the company. He says, we're not going to do that. He said, we're going to fly B-52 bombers through the Chinese South China Sea no-fly zone that they've declared, which we don't respect. Trump does some really wild blathering, and he says, he said something about Biden made $10,000 in the first 10 minutes in office on Air Force 2. He's number one. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of numbers. And then he said, we helped the farmers or something during the trade war. And Joe Biden said, well, you paid the China. He said, we paid the Chiners however many, millions or billions of dollars we paid them. And Biden said, well, you paid them that through taxes. And Trump said, you know who paid the taxes? China paid the taxes. And Biden said malarkey. So we got our malarkey for tonight.
Absolutely.
First one. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that was an interesting exchange. So I think if you drop audio in there, you got to drop the part where Biden or Trump talks about you made $10,000 in the first 10 minutes in office flying on Air Force Two, number one. That was just like a really weird like countdown or something. It's like, yeah, I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, that was that was pretty interesting. I liked how he dealt with that though. It's like I think just kind of laughing and smiling and kind of just, oh man, this guy. I feel like that's honestly the best way to deal with him.
Yeah.
I feel like this like rising to his level of mania never works because you're never gonna outdo his level of excitability.
Yeah. I think the debate is going well.
Yeah.
And well, let's see. Biden said he did transition a little bit abruptly, and he said something about, the average American family is sitting around the home table or something, and they're thinking about, the tires on the car are bald, but we can't afford to replace them right now, so we'll just keep driving on them or something. And then, Trump says, see, he's a typical politician. We're talking about China, and then he transitions. He wants to talk about the family at the table, and he says, I'm not a traditional politician. That's how I got elected and stuff. And then Biden says malarkey or something. And then, yeah, that was kind of another interesting moment there, I thought. Yeah. And it sounds like next we're going to North Korea. So they're talking about North Korea. And she mentions that, North Korea has developed the longest range intercontinental missile that they have, and they've continued nuclear development. And she asks, and Trump said something, and then she asked Biden, what would be conditions for meeting with Kim Jong-un? Because you said you would not meet with Kim Jong-un. And I'm not so sure that this isn't a weakness of Biden, frankly. Like, I think that there is something to be said for meeting with people to have talks with them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't want to legitimize them necessarily, but like, it's a reality. They're out there. They're going to be there. So causing problems. So.
But do you think it legitimizes them at all to meet with them without having them give up anything and just meet with them as they are?
Possibly, but I mean, yes, but I mean, whether we legitimize them or not, they're out there, and I do think, like, I mean, right now, who they're talking to is China, but if they're talking to America too, then theoretically there could be some ability to kind of play both sides against the middle and say, like, which is what they want to do, but like, just say, like, look, you guys are acting like China's always got your back and always doing things for you, but actually maybe that's not the case, and yada yada yada. I don't know. I'm just let's see. Anyways, Biden said that the drawing down nuclear capability would be the prerequisite for meeting with Kim Jong-un, which, we've done it for however many years. It never happens. So it's just kind of basically saying we're not going to meet with them. And Trump says, Kim Jong-un didn't like Obama. He wouldn't meet with him. Well, I mean, I'm not sure that's such a bad thing. Okay, this horrible, Biden called him a thug, called Kim Jong-un a thug, which is, if a thug doesn't want to meet with you, I don't know that necessarily speaks badly of you.
Yeah.
And Trump talked about, I had a good relationship with him and stuff. And Biden said, we had a good relationship with Hitler before he invaded the rest of Europe. Come on. And Trump says, they left me a mess. Obama left me a mess. He told me that, war with North Korea was a big possibility. And he said, and it was a possibility for the first 3 months of my presidency before we got things worked out. But, now I have a good relationship with him or whatever. So I don't know. I do think, like, Donald Trump has been wildly irresponsible with regards to China and North Korea as far as lying about the locations of American fleets that were supposedly en route to the Korean Peninsula at a time when tensions were high, and stuff like that. I think his negotiations with North Korea have been foolish because he thinks he has to act like he got something from them, even though he clearly didn't, just to justify that he even had them and that he was smarter than Obama and everybody who ever came before.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can make the argument that having meetings with the guy is not necessarily the end of the world, but you have to also acknowledge that Donald Trump hasn't actually gotten as much regarding any concessions from North Korea, which he would deny. So
I might be more willing to eat my words on that if I felt like there was any progress.
Yeah. If there were any tangibles coming out of this thing, then that might be a different story.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Okay.
But they fell in love, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. Did you have more on Korea?
No, I guess I trust your opinion living in the fallout zone at the moment more than, I guess it's more theoretical to me, I guess. So I guess if you're feeling, I don't know, I thought that line about Hitler was a good one. I thought that was kind of a zinger from Biden. But
yeah, that's true. I mean, just because America having good relationships with the country is not the be all end all of whether that's a legitimate or decent country. Clearly.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
And Donald Trump says it's important to have good relations with leaders of other countries. It's like, okay, well, you have good relations with, you think you have good relationship with all these strongmen, but you have terrible relationships with everybody we've traditionally maintained relationships with. So why is maintaining good relations with countries that we have traditionally allied ourselves with, why is that such an uphill battle for you, or something you're just totally not interested in? So, yeah. And I will say it's interesting, some Koreans are saying like, oh, well, Donald Trump may not be so bad because he lets us, we have a good chance to negotiate with North Korea and stuff like that. And I'm like, and I've told them, I told them from the beginning, from 2016, I told Koreans, hey, if Moon Jae-in, president, wants to make a deal with North Korea, do it right now, because right now with Donald Trump at helm, you're getting a wider berth than you're ever going to get again to do whatever you think you can do with North Korea. The fact that they have not accomplished hardly anything tells you that, some people on the left in Korea like to blame America for keeping South Korea and North Korea apart. Well, you've got the perfect opportunity right now. You've got a left-wing president in South Korea, and you've got a right-wing president in America who doesn't really care what you do. So make peace, open the border, do whatever you can do right now. But this is it. Donald Trump's not going to get a second term, Lord willing. And frankly, under a Joe Biden presidency, Kim Jong-un is not going to have as much freedom on the international stage as he's had for the past 4 years. So if you think you can get any concessions out of the guy, if you think you can get a deal out of the guy, do it right now, because this is it, But if you can't do it or you won't do it, then you need to acknowledge that, it's not America that's keeping you back from this. It's freaking North Korea and China or whoever else it is. But it's, they're being the unreasonable ones here. So, in a way, Donald Trump has been a great experiment in that regard. What happens if America, takes their foot off the neck of North Korea for a few years and, gives peace a chance? Well, okay, North Korea still acts fucking crazy. Okay, back to normal. So, I say that smugly because I think we're going to win. The only outcome I can conceptualize right now is that we do win because, the other alternative is incomprehensible in a way.
Yeah, it's so awful.
The other alternative is that we never get COVID under control. I don't see my nephew until he's about 16, who I haven't met yet. He's about 2 years old next month.
Right.
And yeah, it's not a good situation.
No, it's bad.
I might have to consider South Korean citizenship at that point. My God.
you
I
may not
can't
have a
do another
choice.
4 years of this shit.
Well, you're well positioned. You're already almost an expat at this point.
Yeah, well, I am an expat. I'm an American living overseas, but yeah, I have to consider other alternatives. I'm joking. If I have a future political career, do not hold this over my head.
The
I
attack
love
ads write
America.
themselves.
God bless America. Least I know I'm free. Okay. All right. So where are
God
we
bless
at here?
America from coming from you. It's a wild year.
Yeah. 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 Living overseas has made me more of a patriot,
Sure.
and watching Donald Trump desecrate the Constitution has made me realize that, like, yeah, actually, I mean, I think there's problems in the Constitution, frankly, but I think that there is, like, the system of government we have. If we actually stood up for what it's supposed to be, it would be a pretty great thing.
Hmm.
But we don't have people willing to enforce the Constitution on this clown or anybody in his party, apparently, and so it's not working. Yeah, it's a sad story, and if we can arrest that right now, that's great. If we can't do that for another 4 years, I don't know. I don't know where we're going. So,
Hmm.
okay, so Kristen Welker starts off the section on healthcare by talking about that Donald Trump has a case in the Supreme Court which would knock 20 million Americans off of their health insurance.
Hmm.
Um,
Before you go on, can I just say she did a great job. I was very impressed with her.
yeah, yeah, I think she's doing
I
pretty
just want
well
to
in
say
this
that
debate.
because I've been so critical of the moderators up to this point, and I just want to say that I thought she actually kept things moving pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, I think she's keeping them on schedule here, and I
Hmm.
will say I don't know. I think it's easy to criticize. It's always easy to criticize the debate moderator. I try not to fall for it too much, but yeah, it's an easy thing, but at the same time, it's a very hard thing to do. And I
Sure.
think through some combination of her abilities, naturally, the fact that people's mics are muted for 2 minutes, and the fact that Donald Trump may have been slightly chastened by his performance in the response to it last time,
Yep.
you know, and he's even complimented her at one point throughout this thing
Hmm.
too. You might drop that in there where he said, "You're doing a
Yeah.
very nice job," or whatever he said.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do think she is. I mean, like, yeah. At this point, she's like, "You got 10 more seconds," and then she's like, "All right, and all right, all right," and we're moving on. Okay.
Yep.
And I think that's what you got to do. That's what I was thinking last time too. Was like,
Hmm.
you can't say, "Please, please, Mr. President, please, we
Yeah.
uh okay." He's just gonna keep talking. No, you gotta, you just gotta bulldoze. You just gotta do that too, right? Like,
Also, I
go
didn't
through it.
catch her doing any of those embarrassing. You're gonna love this one, Mr. President.
Hmm.
Like I hate that stuff. Like you don't need to do that.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely not. So anyways, they talk about, 20 million people being thrown off of health insurance based on a case that, Trump's people are pushing through the Supreme Court right now. Let's see. Trump said we terminated the individual mandate. The worst part. He said you have to pay some money not to pay money or something. He said I could have gone the other route, and he said we tried to make Obamacare work. I could have gone the other route and made everybody very unhappy. I think we're going
That's
to
for
win the
you. That's what.
House. He said we might not even have, or we might even have the House by then. By the time I get to remake Obamacare, remake healthcare, he said I think we're going to win the House. And I'm like, oh my God. Nobody is predicting that. Like, what are the stats on 538 of Trump, of the Republicans winning the House in
I
20?
think it's like 1 in 100 or something.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody's saying that. The question. It's an open question whether the Republicans are even going to keep the Senate right now. They're not going to win the House, for God's
No,
sakes.
no.
So,
Although I live in according to 538, the most competitive Senate or House race in the country between Victoria Spartz and Christina Hale, which is actually an interesting race because I interviewed Christina Hale when I was at the Kokomo Tribune because she was the running mate of John Gregg, who ran against Pence and I guess later Holcomb. But Victoria Spartz is from Ukraine and is a recent emigre to the United States. So it's kind of an interesting race. You might want to look into it.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, wait, which one is which? Who is who? Who's the
Christina Hale.
Republican?
Christina Hale is the Democrat, former running mate to John Gregg, who ran against Pence, and then later.
I'm old Greg.
Yeah, he's got a big walrus mustache. I interviewed him too. But anyway, she is running against Victoria Spartz, Spartz, and she's originally from Ukraine, and I believe just in the last few years moved to the United States. There's got to be a lot of money pouring into that race because I see. Yeah, Ash calls her Cold Shiver. What's her name? Because she's a pretty frightening person in her campaign ads.
She's
but
a pretty what?
She's a pretty cold, and I don't know. You should just watch her campaign ads and check her out. But
Okay.
anyway, I feel like there's a lot of outside money coming in from this one because there's like so many signs for her, huge signs all around the area. So, but 538 has it as the most competitive House race in the whole country. So.
Well, I thank God that the Ukrainian immigrant running for the elected office is not a Democrat because they try to pin that on Joe Biden.
Right.
And yeah, and she was taking the money for him in the Ukraine.
It's all on Hunter Biden's laptop.
Yeah, Burisma.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, interesting. So.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
no one's saying that the House is going to go that way. I don't know where he's getting that from.
I don't know why he said it. I mean, it's obviously such a ridiculous idea. I mean, this kind of blind optimism that you're going to win anything.
Yeah, I don't know.
You're going to win the House. I mean, my God. I mean, maybe after 2 years of Democratic rule, if they are not effective. But my God, yeah, in 2020, I don't think so.
In this economy?
Yeah, with this many dead, 231,000.
Yeah, doubtful.
Yeah, so okay, so he said we're going to win the House. We might even have the House by then, so we could, make a big, beautiful healthcare thing, something pre-existing, yada yada yada. No individual mandate, yada yada yada, etc. So Biden responds, "We're going to have Obamacare with a public option, and we're going to call it Biden Care." It's going to be competition with private healthcare, so it's not going to be replacing private healthcare. But if people can't afford private healthcare, then they'll be able to get into the public option somehow, and that will make private healthcare costs come down, presumably.
Yeah, I would just like to say that I thought it was a really good point that he made about how he won because he's Joe Biden and these other people aren't the winners because they didn't, he disagreed with them. And I think that's such a good response to the people that are like, the socialists are secretly controlling Joe Biden and will force him to be. It's like, have you talked to any self-proclaimed socialists lately? Because they don't seem very happy about this, and they're very reluctantly voting for Joe Biden and aren't getting a lot of their ideas through the transition committees between him and Bernie. And so I just wish all the Republicans who said that would interact with some more, or at least observe some more commentary by the socialists in the world, the actual socialists, and see how they're actually feeling, because I don't think they're too happy.
Yeah. Well, I will say, I thought it was kind of a bullshit line because he didn't beat them because he had better ideas. His ideas were going less well. But he won because like Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg and like somebody else all dropped out at the same time right before the South Carolina primary. That's why he won the primary. It wasn't because his ideas won the day.
No, but I don't think he's being secretly controlled by them either. And I think that he seems pretty staunch about his whole Biden care thing. And I don't really think he's going for a Medicare for all option. I think the most he'll say is, a public option if you can't afford to buy one of these plans or something, which would be, I guess, a good stopgap measure, but wouldn't get you all the way to universal coverage. So.
Well, I think as a lot of left-wing commentators have said, is we're going to vote for Biden this time, but we're going to fight him from day one to get the stuff that we want, and we'll see how that goes. So it is true he's going to be facing pressure from people, but yeah, I mean, this is kind of the inherent schizophrenia of the Trump attack on Biden, is that on the one hand, he's kind of a milquetoast, boring, kind of middle-of-the-road guy who spent 47 years in government and didn't accomplish the things that he says he's going to accomplish now.
Mhm.
And at the same time, he's kind of the Schrodinger Democrat, because at the same time he's simultaneously the Trojan horse that's going to usher in, socialized communist, gulag archipelago, etc., just into America somehow. He's going to do both of these same things at the same time, right? Like that's the Trump attack. And I think people have pointed out that it's not really landing with people. People don't really believe that Joe Biden is this crazed socialist that they want to paint him as.
I don't believe so.
Yeah. So I think that's interesting. At one point, Joe Biden said, "I still have a few more minutes. I know you're getting anxious." Haha. I don't know why he said that. I don't know what his time was at that point, or what Kristen might have been doing.
He might have had just been wanting to eat up a few seconds there.
Yeah, perhaps. That's as plausible as anything. And he mentions that, all these people with COVID right now are going to have pre-existing conditions, and we're going to, Donald Trump has never credibly made a plan for pre-existing conditions, but we will have one. They're going to be covered. So a great point, I think. Let's see. Then Donald Trump said he wants socialized medicine, and it's not even that he wants it. She wants it. His vice president, she's more liberal than Bernie Sanders and stuff, So again, it's just an incoherent attack. He wants this, but actually he doesn't want it, or somebody else wants it, or something. It's just like you're saying two different things. And then he said, Joe Biden with his socialized medicine, he's going to kill Medicare and Social Security. And Biden responded, "The idea that he is going to lecture me on Medicare and Social Security, come on." He said, I think he said somebody within the Social Security or Medicare administration had said that if Donald Trump's healthcare situation continues or something, that by 2023 they would be insolvent or something like that. So again, there's a whole backstory there. I don't know, but smarter people are saying that Trump's bad on this stuff. So
you're hearing things.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying.
Yes.
So, all right. Yeah, I don't know. It would. Well, Donald Trump says that Nancy Pelosi won't approve more funds for relief, which is why he thinks he's going to win the House. Biden counterattacks that Mitch McConnell can't control the Republicans in the Senate, who have said that they won't approve this if it goes through the House. Joe Biden mentions that the federal government can deficit spend, but state budgets have to be balanced. And so to put the relief and stuff. Well, okay, I'm kind of mixing things up now, but but which is I think it's a valid point. Like when the federal government won't help the states in a time like this with support, financial support, then the states are going to have to start firing people, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he mentions, first responders, fire, police, etc. Because they have to, states legally have to have balanced budgets, but the federal government can deficit spend in an emergency. So, Kristen Welker asks, Biden, is now the right time for a $15 minimum wage with so many businesses in trouble? Joe Biden said we should be bailing out small businesses now, which we're not doing. Kristen Welker asked Donald Trump, she said, you said you would consider a federal $15 minimum wage. What about that? And Trump said, well, I consider, but different areas of the country, $15 is a lot, or it's ruinous, disastrous, or something. And I don't know. I don't know what his position actually is on that. I imagine his position is the same as the Republican position, which is no, $15 minimum wage nationwide, certainly.
Mm-mm.
So, yeah. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you look at who actually needs the bailout, a lot of it is not the blue states, as they keep saying. So I think that when they're trying to put this all on one color or another, it doesn't really track, because I feel like all states are kind of hurting right now. So I think they just want to use that as a way to say no, but it's not anything to do with reality, because I feel like the states that need actual help are generally the ones that don't bring in as much revenue, which, California is the 7th, 8th largest economy in the world by itself. So I don't think Mississippi can say that, or even Indiana. So I don't know. It's a very frustrating line of attack to try to combat against. But and I did think his line about how the states can't deficit spend like the government is a good one, because they can't print money on their own. It just doesn't work. So
Yeah, yeah. He also mentioned that Biden also mentioned that there's no proof that raising minimum wage will kill the businesses, which is, something that's been said for a long time. And I don't know. I mean, I think it's very plausible that it might, but I mean, or it may or may not lead to inflation. I don't know what would happen exactly, but I don't know. I don't know what the solution is on the government end, but on the people's end, we have to have money that keeps up with the inflation that's already happened for the past, 30, 20 years. When I was 15 years old in high school, working my first job, I think my minimum wage salary was something like, I can't remember if it was $6.75 or $7.75, $8.70. It wasn't much, but it was something like that. And it hasn't moved much from that in most places since then.
No.
I know some states have approved higher minimum wages, but I mean, the cost of everything. I mean, the cost of, gas, food, coffee, etc., just whatever, your day-to-day cost of living is through the roof. Plus you have things like, a smartphone that you have to buy that's going to cost you several $100s or so each time, up to $1,000 or so, internet, cable, specialty channels, subscription services, just, expenses that we didn't even have back in high school that everybody basically has now. I don't know. It's, we need that. We need that. People need that. Especially when you consider that, American worker productivity has gone through the roof in the past 30 to 40 years, and salaries have not kept pace, and cost of living has increased. It's just a disaster all the way around. I don't see how you justify it. So.
Yeah, it's pretty undefensible from my standpoint, but I'm not a business owner, I guess. So maybe they have a different opinion. But
yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see. We raise it to $15 a job, and we see what happens. And maybe they lay some people off at first, and then they find they need to keep them working, and maybe they raise their prices. Maybe I don't know what happens. I'm not an economist. I'll be the first to admit, but I will say, Republicans keep crashing the economy, and Democrats keep aiming to fix it. And so I feel pretty good that we're on the right side of this, even if I don't personally necessarily understand all the intricacies of it. Jesus.
He hates to say it. He just hates it.
You got to put some sound drops in there from some of the just insipid things that Trump was saying. Because I tried to write them down, but I couldn't get them because I was laughing. But yeah, okay. So the question from Welker was about reuniting migrant families, and Trump said he started blathering about, coyotes and cartels, bring them over here. We have the strong border. Let me just tell you. And there was a very certain newspaper that reported, they said that I built the cages, but there was a very certain newspaper that reported that the Obamas built these very horrible cages. And I'm like, okay, if they're very, very horrible cages, why are you still using them? If Obama built them, you don't object to them.
Right.
Biden said 500 plus kids came here with parents. They were separated at the border as a disincentive. He said they didn't come here with coyotes here. They didn't come here from the cartels. They were brought here by their parents and stuff. And he mentions that, you're a kid traveling with your parents. You come to the Rio Grande, you cross the border. It's illegal. What do you say? Drop me here. Just leave me here. I don't want to go any further. He's like, no. Let's see. Biden goes, he's continuing to try to blame all the cages on the Obamas. They did it and we changed it. Like, how did you change it? You didn't change it. You're still using the cages. That's the issue. He said, who built the cages?
Yeah.
Who built the cages?
Who filled the cages?
Yeah. And Biden said, regarding the separating of families, he said, it's criminal. It's criminal. I like that line there. I think that's an important distinction to be made, that things that this president has done, they're not unseemly. They're not, this or that. it's criminal behavior, and it should be looked at that way. And I hope that under a Biden Justice Department that there would be investigations and criminal charges, and people like Stephen Miller and Donald Trump and perhaps Jared Kushner and what's his name? Recused himself very meekly. What's his name? Racist former senator guy. What's his name?
Jeff Sessions.
Yeah, Jeff Sessions. I think they found out recently. He used to be the the good boy who was going to follow the Constitution and recuse himself. But now we find out, oh my God, this is the guy who kind of like originated the idea of family separations. Like, what a monster! It's like, yeah, we need to criminally investigate these people. This is, there's no world in which separating families like this is at all justified, and imprisoning the children. If you're going to imprison anybody, you imprison the people who broke the law under this consideration, the people who crossed the border illegally, and maybe you send the children back to families wherever they came from. I'm not even going to help them work out how to do this in a way that would be somewhat more humane, because I still think it's a pretty inhumane thing. But yeah. Let's see. It's criminal. It's criminal, he says. And Donald Trump, at that point, he said something ridiculously hilarious. He's like, and these children, he doesn't say this, but he's like, and the children who are, separated from their parents, but he's like, and they're being taken care of so well, or something. He says, like, he's like, these children who we've got locked in cages, they're really having a great time down there. You got to drop the sound in there at that point, because it was bizarre. And he continues to, Joe Biden was vice president for 8 years and he didn't do anything. They built the cages. Who built the cages and all this stuff? And Joe Biden says, I'm going to be the president, not the vice president. And I was like, oof, be careful, Joe. This is the first time you've actually come out and suggested that something that Obama might have done might have been wrong, and that you would do it differently. Consequently, like, you're on thin ice here, it seems like. So, and he mentioned that Trump is making asylum seekers do something which they've never had to do in American history, which is seek asylum from a third country, which is, obviously problematic, because if you're seeking asylum for your safety, then you don't need to be somewhere else. You need to be here until we can determine whether or not you're eligible, legitimate claim, etc. But, and then at the end, Trump said some other insipid things that were, also equally clippable, probably. Yeah. Thoughts on that?
I mean, what can you say? I mean, he was basically talking about the detention camps like they're one of his hotels. So it's like,
they're being so well taken care of. 5-star, first class, golden toilets. They're not catching COVID and getting molested. No.
The coyotes, Joe. Oh.
Yeah, it's bizarre. And I think this is the one issue. This is one of many issues. This is the issue. Like when people say, "Oh, why can't we all just get along?" And political disagreements don't mean we have to disagree, with each other. It's like, no. You're separating children from their parents and locking them in cages and keeping them there indefinitely, and you're losing the families. And this is unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable.
Yeah, I think
this is not a difference in the marginal tax rate that we can agree to disagree. This is a moral failing, and I don't invoke the idea of morality too often, in politics or whatever. But this is, children belong with their families. I mean, that's I don't know anybody who would dispute that.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. The one of my favorite editorial cartoons of this year was somebody who I forget who was the artist here, but it was like an undecided voter who had like a cup of coffee, and they were down on their hands and knees, like kind of with their legs kicking up in the air, kind of like resting their chin on one of their wrists, like with elbow cocked on the ground, like looking at the kid in the cage. They're like, "Who do you think I should vote for? I don't know. I'm just so confused." Like,
yeah,
like the kid in the cage has some opinions, I bet.
Yeah, you'll have to like share that somewhere on Twitter or something later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is one of the, and like, I mean, I don't even know why he's trying to say that Obama. Yeah, I mean, Obama had cages. Yeah, people who,
Mm-hmm.
Obama deported more than, most other presidents. It's a sad story. But you know what we didn't hear about? We didn't hear about families getting separated and children getting lost in the system and molested.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
and let's not forget
that's
that Stephen Miller put these policies into place to purposely scare people away from coming to our country. So it's not
as
like just
Biden said,
was
this was an intentional
yeah,
disincentive. This wasn't like
wasn't
a
an accident.
byproduct of a
Right.
bureaucratic, whatever. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's very salient.
There's time at the end for Melania to come up and look uncomfortable next to him. If
Oh,
that's
by
even
the
the real
way,
Melania.
I thought I saw something. Some people were saying there was a deal about a fake Melania or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
What was the story there? Because I didn't. I saw a couple of images that looked pretty
Well,
suspect, but I didn't
this is
read the
not an
story or
isolated
whatever.
incident. This is not. I would be much less likely to go in for this theory if it was just like one time, but like there's been multiple occasions, especially recently, where he has appeared with quote unquote Melania, does not look quite like Melania, and not in a way where it's like she had some work done. Like face of shape is different, and like it's just not the
Yeah,
same person. And like extremely affectionate too, because I mean, if you ever look at the real Melania, it's you can't stand this guy, and it's obvious.
yeah,
And he's on stage with this fake Melania. At least that's the theory, as the theory goes, the fake
yeah. He's like
Melania.
kissing her and stuff.
Yeah, they're like having like.
Yeah, Ivana, I didn't want to say anything, but your wig is slipping. Straighten it out now.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I don't know that for sure. It looks very suspicious.
Yeah. How does Bill Maher says I don't know this for sure. I just know it's I
Yeah,
don't know this. Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't know
know
this
for
for
sure. I
sure. I
just
just
know
know
it's
it's
true.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's one of those.
All right. So race in America. They start off by mentioning the talk that African Americans parents have with their children about interactions with police and safety and so forth. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so Biden responds and he basically demonstrates a knowledge of the talk. And he talks about having, when you're pulled over or something in the car,
Mm-hmm.
having your hands high up on the steering wheel so that there's no, ambiguity and so forth. Trump starts talking about the crime bill, 1994, super predators, the super predators. He says it again and again. He talks about left-wing people who came and cried in my office, and then 2 weeks later they're out there, saying we have to defeat him. Biden mentions Trump talked about marauding gangs, the Central Park Five, and also
Mm-hmm.
he said I never said what he said I said. I guess what she's saying is about the super predators. Um, Trump says I ran because of you. I ran because of you and Obama. And Biden said, "You know who I am, and you know who he is, and you know my character, and you know his character, and I'm ready to have the race on these terms." Basically,
Mm-hmm.
um, Donald Trump said something about. He started talking about various things. Then he said something about you have like the laptop from hell, and then he kept going. And he said something. The laptop is Russia, 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 and I'm just like, what in God's name is going on here? And he said, the first thing I heard about Black Lives Matter was pigs in a blanket, fry 'em. What did he say? Fry 'em, no, pigs in a blanket, fry 'em like bacon. And he said, so I didn't like Black Lives Matter. And he says, I'm the least racist person in the room. It's kind of
It's not
dark
it.
in here, and I don't know who all's in the audience, but I'm the least racist here.
I like how he's not racist. He's just the least, right?
Yeah, he's on the spectrum.
He's on the spectrum. There's some there. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little dark in here. Some people's skin tones, you can't always
Yeah,
pick
you
them
can't
out.
discriminate the way you'd like to, but
Yeah. So Joe Biden mocks him and says, "Oh, Abraham Lincoln here is the least racist or something." He's, excuse me. I said, since Abraham Lincoln, I was the least, racist or something. I've done the most for black people, historically back, HBCs, etc. etc. And Joe Biden said, I've been trying to change the drug laws that we passed in the 80s after the 1980s, especially cocaine, which I
Mm-hmm.
thought was okay, interesting. I don't know. I will say, I don't think he went into enough detail here because he obviously didn't start trying to change those things during the 1990s necessarily. So
No.
at what point after the 1980s, when he passed these, draconian drug laws, I'm
Yeah.
sure the mandatory minimum things that he was mentioning earlier, like at what point did he start trying to,
Mm-hmm.
overturn some of these things? And like mentioning especially cocaine is an interesting, we're talking about race here, so you don't
Mm-hmm.
got to talk about cocaine, you want to talk about crack, right? Because the
Right.
distinction between crack and cocaine has always
Right.
been the white black issue, and also your own son's cocaine usage in the past has become an issue. Or I'm not sure if it was cocaine or if it was crack. I don't know. I've heard
Mm-hmm.
both of the accusations there, so that was,
Right.
I don't know, from a Joe Biden perspective, I'm not sure that was a strong answer, but
Yeah. For people that don't know though, the disparity in the crack laws was that if you were found with the same amount of cocaine as you were crack, you would be punished 100 times more than you would be than if you had just straight cocaine, which is obviously just totally arbitrary number that they just wanted to punish, communities of color with. And then I believe it was in 2009, maybe I'd have to look this up, but I think they had brought it down to 17 to 1, which is still not great, but better than 100 to 1. And you're right, he was in, I hate to agree with Trump on anything, but didn't see him making any moves in the time between the crime bill and then when he tried to turn that around as what was, not even fair at all, obviously. So,
yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I think at the same time, we can't say that we have any illusions that, that Joe Biden in 2020 is the same Joe Biden in like
hmm
1988. I mean, like,
sure. And a lot
you
of,
know,
a lot of black leaders were in favor of that at the time too, which is something I think people forget. At the time, it was kind of a bipartisan thing, but it just ended up disproportionately hurting, the African American community way more, obviously. So
yeah.
I don't think he's ever on record saying super predator. That was Bill and Hillary, as
Clinton.
far as I remember.
Yeah. No, I don't doubt he was right there with him. But, as
I,
far as
yeah.
if there was tape of him saying it, I haven't seen it yet. And I think I would have
hmm
seen it yet if it was out there by now. So,
Seriously. Yeah.
um, Trump, kept saying, I've freed tens of thousands of people and da 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 da. And you had 8 years. Why didn't you get it done? He kept shouting this about various things. And then Biden said, well, because we had a Republican Congress. That's the reason. And then, I think Kristen Welker and Trump were both waiting for him to continue, but he left it there again, which I think is a strong answer. That's a strong way to answer something. Just say what you're going to say, let it
hmm
stand. And then Trump said, "You got to talk him into it, Joe. You got to talk him into it, or something. You got to do the sound drop there. It's just like, oh my
Pretty
god,
pretty incredible.
yeah, yeah, pretty wild. So, okay, so climate change. So climate change. Trump talks about the Trillion Trees Initiative.
Was it a trillion?
He said a trillion.
Huh.
Alliteration. Trillion Trees
Huh.
Initiative.
Maybe it was a trillion.
Let's see. Said, look at China, how filthy it is. Russia, India, so filthy. It's like, who is this maniac? Just what is he talking about? Yeah, the germaphobe strikes again. Okay. Biden talked about making 50,000 charging stations on highways so we can own the electric market. Talked about millions of jobs in the green energy thing. Trump said they're all hopping through hoops for AOC +3. They want to turn big windows into small windows and other crazy things. It was totally unhinged. I think AOC hit him. Emilio Ocasio-Cortez hit him for insulting her by not calling her out by name,
hmm
or presumably by looping, the squad in with her. an abbreviated version of her name. Anyways, there was something about that. I don't know. The guy, it's disrespectful, but that's just scratching the surface of this guy's communications method, his way of speaking. Biden says, I don't know where he comes from. I don't know where he comes up with these numbers. And Trump interjected, Queens. It's just absolutely bizarre. I feel like we're on like a terrible hip hop track here.
Exactly.
Then Trump said, I know more about wind than you do. It's extremely expensive. It kills all the birds. It's very intermittent, so it's got a lot of problems.
Yeah, he literally thinks that the lights go out when the wind stops blowing. So.
Yeah. I think that's what happens to Donald Trump. I think the lights go out when the wind stops blowing, if you know what I'm saying.
I don't exactly know, but I think I get it.
When he's not talking, there's just empty slate up there. Okay, so I think that pretty much. I mean, there may be a couple more seconds here on green, the climate. Oh God, I talk like him now. We can do solar, green, nuclear,
cyber, nuclear.
Yeah, yeah, big things. Okay,
pre-existing.
Yeah. Yeah, all of the above. Okay. The final question. What will you say to Americans who didn't vote for you? And Trump said various things, but he basically said success is going to bring us together. He said if you vote for Biden, your 401ks are going to go to hell. Biden basically said, I'm an American president and I will represent all of you. Basically, long story short. All right. Well, I don't know, Bob, thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. It's I'm glad that was the last debate. I can't handle any more of these.
We did it.
That might be the last one. Fingers crossed.
How many debates have we done?
Goodness gracious. Well, let's see. Are you counting primary debates? Because I know we did.
I'm counting it all. Primaries from 2015.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess there were no midterm debates, but.
No, not really. I don't think we did any of the primary ones the first time in 2016. I think we just did presidential and vice presidential. But this one, yeah. This one, I think we pretty much did all the primary for the Democrats and all the ones for this year. I'd have to look up how many that is, but quite a run. So.
Yeah. Bob, it'd be easier to look that kind of thing up if you put episode titles.
You're not the only. I've had other people tell me that. So
it's never too late to start.
It's true.
Yeah. Well, I think in Korea right now, Bob, it's already the 3rd. Okay.
Oh wow.
It's almost 2 a.m. on November 3rd in Korea. So 24 hours from now, shit's about to pop off in America.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts, feelings, predictions for this coming time period?
I think we're gonna win. I think we have to win. Like I said, I don't know what the world looks like if we don't.
One encouraging thing I did see is that even though there's states where they don't start counting the ballots until tomorrow, there is evidence that Democrats have been getting their ballots in earlier this year, and Republicans that are voting that way may be waiting, and so it may turn around and be the voter suppression bites them again, which will be interesting to see if we see a flip later in the week if Biden has a strong lead. I can't use that as an adjective. Stop it, Trump. A significant lead. Tomorrow when the polls close, it'll be interesting to see if the Trump people flip to count every vote. It looks like they're not, because I think what they're counting on is this red mirage thing where it looks like they're ahead initially, and then we have to count all the absentee and military ballots and all that stuff on the back end, and they're going to be like, oh, no more counting. But then if it looks like they're down, it'll be interesting to see if they continue that, because not known for their consistency.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that I mean, everything that they've been doing, and even the infection totals going up to almost 100,000 here this past week, and I don't know where they are at today, but there's a part of my mind that thinks that Trump may be allowing this to happen or encouraging this to happen in some way. I mean, he certainly is through his rallies, as we mentioned earlier, but he may be attempting to discourage voting on the election day, which I mean, and the what's the word? The kind of the I don't know. It's one way, but it's also the other way. Oh, God, I hate it when I can't think of a word. Like in a normal conversation, I could think of these words, but the ironic thing about that, I guess, to put it another way, is that anything that he's doing to discourage voting may be disproportionately affecting his own voters, and anything that he may be doing to encourage same-day voting may be endangering his own voters, and or the fact that the COVID situation has gotten out of control may actually finally get through to his voters, and they may not show up in the numbers that he's hoping. And so it's like it's even if we knew exactly what his strategy was, to the degree that he has one, we have no idea if it would actually work the way he thinks it will, and it may totally backfire. And so, yeah. But I think yeah.
Well, I'm hopeful in that I feel like all this voter suppression is actually having, like you kind of said, the opposite effect of the one intended, because people are just trying to get out and vote as quickly as possible, and it's I think that also I'm encouraged by that going forward in future elections too, if this continues, because it kind of takes away the sting of any potential October surprises if most people have already voted weeks before election day, and it's not like everyone's just waiting. So
yeah, Hillary Clinton said it a few months ago. She told Joe Biden, basically don't concede anything. You'd be crazy to concede. And I think that's true. Like, do not do what Al Gore did in 2000 and just say, to preserve the institution of the presidency, I'm not going to challenge this. And don't go down that road.
Absolutely not. I mean, if anyone in our audience has ever listened to Fiasco, the first season, which actually just dropped on iTunes, if people want to get it for free, it'd be a good election day binge listen. Not that this wouldn't be, but basically.
And you've interviewed Leon Neyfakh, haven't you, before?
Oh, several times. Yeah, he's a regular guest on the show. I've interviewed him.
Always
after
good to hear
one
him
of
on here.
Yeah, every one of his Slow Burn first and now Fiasco seasons, I've had him on each time. So, but his first season of Fiasco is about the 2000 election, and basically, yeah, it's what you were saying. It's like that set the tone, and then if you unconcede, it looks like you're the sore loser that can't accept defeat, and George W. Bush is just trying to do the right thing, So it's like, don't go down that path. Optics matter in these kind of cases. So.
Yeah, you have 4 years to feel bad about looking like a sore loser for about 5 minutes, if you win.
Yeah.
If you lose, well, you look like a sore loser and America loses her democracy. So just don't concede. Don't concede shit.
Oh, absolutely.
Fight it out. Donald Trump's going to lie, cheat, and steal to stay in power because he knows he's going to be squealing in prison if he doesn't. And put him there. So. Yeah. So anyways, I mean, if this comes out before the election, and I'm not sure it will, but I'm sorry we came down to the last minute here, and that's a lot my fault. But,
I'm gonna be flipping this over and editing it this afternoon now, so it's gonna be pretty wild.
Bob, there's a lot here, but I think we got through things pretty well when we were talking about them, and I think a lot of the dead air where we're just listening, I think it's going to be pretty easy to just cut that out and say okay, and it's going to be pretty easy to see the parts where we're actually saying stuff. So I think I don't know, I feel pretty good about how it went here. You'll have to let me know how the editing process goes by comparison, but
yeah, it would be cool if we could do this like a little more planned out next go around, if if we ever have American democracy after this, I guess, if it goes the bad way. But But yeah, I think that might be a good one to like maybe watch it live and pause it, and maybe have us like Mystery Science Theater 3000 in the background as they're talking, as opposed to
yeah, if you could get the audio in there.
Yeah.
And frankly, like one thing that I've noticed as we've done this is I feel like you've gotten much more talking in which I think is a good thing, because sometimes it feels like I'm just like reading things and then I'm commenting and then I'm like,
Yeah.
Bob, do you have anything to say? Okay, on to the next topic. I'm just kind of like, ramming through the thing. I feel that happening, and there's not much I can do to stop it when I'm going off just my paper
No,
notes,
you got to
which
get
I have
plow
and you
through your
don't have.
nose. Yeah.
So I do think the advantage here is that we are both like being able to respond in the moment and stuff. So I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see
more
how it
fresh in my
sounds. I
mind.
think it's going to sound
Sure.
good.
Yeah, I liked it. I think the little quips and stuff, the little quotes are a little more fresh in my mind because I'm not taking notes. I'm kind of relying on you to do that yeoman's work of that. But I think if we're both listening to it simultaneously, it's like in the front part of my brain to comment on. So I think that's good.
Yeah,
But
and I'm definitely feeling myself this time, like just being able to gauge the context a lot better, because when I'm going off my notes, I'm having to reconstruct an entire, very complex high level discussion that's going on in some cases, and sometimes not when Trump is speaking, but
right.
but it's hard to do that in 3D and stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, this is I think I don't know, I like this format in a way.
Definitely.
So,
but all right. Well, hey, thanks for doing all that work, John. I'll talk to you obviously as the votes are getting counted and all that kind of stuff. So any final words to the voters of the world that might be listening to us if they somehow hear this before the polls close?
Yeah, vote for Biden. He's not our favorite. He's nobody's favorite necessarily, but by God, if you've been right before, if you've been wrong before, you've been wrong before. If you've been wrong before, I'm telling you, this could be the end of American democracy if we don't do the right thing.
Right.
So if you have any doubt that maybe Teacher Jonathan, Big Daddy Cha-Cha has been right before and you've been wrong, take that to the bank. Do the right thing. Get it done. Yeah. Cardi B's on the Bernie train. As is Dua Lipa. I saw the other day Dua Lipa did like an interview with Bernie or something.
Oh, yeah? I didn't catch that. That's funny.
Yeah. So pop culture likes Bernie, but
for sure
that bird has flown the coop, I suppose. But anyways, I'm just saying, like, we're looking pretty good here. I feel pretty good going into this election. Trump's going to try to cheat. Don't let him. Just vote. Do the right thing.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah. Well, get some sleep tonight, or this morning.
All right. You too, Bob. Bob. Yeah. Again, last thing for voters, if you're scared to go and stand in line, as I said on Twitter, don't be scared to go stand in line. Be scared to wonder if you can survive 4 more years of this insanity. Okay. Go stand in line tomorrow, and we'll see if things don't get better for the next 4 years. I guarantee you they're going to get. It's going to be worse before it gets better. It's always darkest before the dawn, but I think we got to turn the corner on this shit right now. This is your chance. So yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, Bob. Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
All right.
Good deal there. We'll talk to you again soon. All right.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Join the Rob Burgess Show mailing list. Go to tinyletter.com/The Rob Burgess Show and type in your email address. Then respond to the automatic message. Also, please make sure to comment, follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, and review everywhere the podcast is available, including iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Twitter, Internet Archive, TuneIn, RSS, and now Spotify. The official website for the podcast is www.therobburgessshow.com. You can find out more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. If you have something to say, record a voice memo on your smartphone and send it to therobburgessshow@gmail.com. Include voice memo in the subject line of the email. Also, if you want to call or text the show for any reason, the number is 317-674-3547. Until next time.